we are talking about stopping lifelong patterns and how to rewire your brain. If we do not go inward and change the deep-rooted parts of you that are causing the problems, you'll never have long-term success. If your plan does not go deep and undo belief systems and rewire the way your brain works and base things off your personality or change your personality or these kind of more deeper caused parts, it's no wonder your results are very short-lived if they even come. Almost everything that you struggle with is more than likely pattern-based, but most people confuse what they do with who they are. What I mean by that is most people will, let's say, I don't know, spend their life binge eating or really struggle with binge eating. So their identity is now, I'm a binger. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Dieting from the Inside Out. If you're new around here, welcome to the show. My name is Jared Hamilton, and I am your host. And in today's video, we are talking about stopping lifelong patterns and how to rewire your brain. I know it's a very, very different, title than a lot of other maybe weight loss kind of podcasts that you may listen to or health related stuff. But this is what we do here in the world of dieting from the inside out. If we do not go inward and change the deep rooted parts of you that are causing the problems, you'll never have long-term success. I think I said on one of the more recent episodes about like the top signs you're on the wrong plan. And one of those is your plan doesn't do this. If your plan does not go deep and undo belief systems and rewire the way your brain works and base things off your personality or change your personality or these kind of more deeper caused parts, it's no wonder your results are very short-lived if they even come. So in today's episode, that's what we're going to get into. So if you're not already subscribed to the show, you'll want to do that because I've got a lot of dope episodes coming your way. So let's get in. Let's talk about this. I have more notes than normal. So if you're watching the video and you see me looking down a lot, it's because I'm double checking my notes because I don't want to go too rabbit hole with this. But let's be honest, that's what's probably going to happen. So here's the thing: stopping lifelong patterns and rewiring your brain. Why even this episode? Why even this content for this? Well, I was getting a shower today. And right before I came to do this, and I go, okay, what should I record on today? What would help the most amount of people? What do people need? And I to be honest, I just have zero interest in talking more about surface level shit. I've had very little interest in a long time talking about surface level stuff. It's why everything is dieting from the inside out. And this is the same kind of thing: is if you do not go deep and fix your patterns and change the way your brain works around certain things, it's no wonder your results are going to be short-lived. So that's why this concept came up, is because a lot of people get confused what they do with who they are. Because the reality is almost everything that you struggle with is more than likely pattern-based, but most people confuse what they do with who they are. What I mean by that is most people will, let's say, I don't know, spend their life binge eating or really struggle with binge eating. So their identity is now, I'm a binger. Well, no, binge eating is a verb. It's just something you did. Versus binger, well, that's a noun. That is who you are. It's a person, place, or thing, right? And but it's the same thing with any of this stuff. Let's say you are constantly, you put things off a lot. Well, now you don't just. It's not just something you did or you do. So I put things off. It's no, I'm a procrastinator. Oh, it's just who I am now. And we see this a lot when people take on the identity of their prognosis or diagnosis. Right. Again, not a doctor, none of that. But how often do we see someone who had a wrong diagnosis, but they go, oh, I must be that person. And then all of a sudden they start walking, talking, acting, and assuming that's who they are. And then their body follows suit. It's wild how much that happens. And it's the problem. Most people confuse what they do or a habit they've been following for a long time with who they are. And then they wonder why the results follow suit and fall short. So that's why we have to adjust this. I have so many conversations with people, especially when they're coming into my ecosystem with coaching or the collective or whatever. And there are terms like, oh, I'm a binger. I'm an emotional eater. Oh, I'm the kind of person that once I start, I can't stop. I'm a procrastinator. Oh, I've never been able to make it. It's just not who I am. I'm not one of those kind of people. Like, whoa, hang on. These are just patterns. That's all they are. It's just patterns. Like if you think about, let's take binge eating. You're not a binger. Like think about the power this strips from binge eating. If you go, nope, Jared, I'm a binger. I started binging when I was a little kid and all I've done my entire life is binge and I am a textbook binger. Like part of just like who I am is I'm a binger. I binge eat every day or every whatever. And I go, well, binge eating is not who you are. It's just something you picked up from your childhood. It's just a pattern. It's literally something you picked up when you were defenseless. That's taken a lot of the power from the binge eating, because you're not a binger. You did not come out of the womb binge eating. You picked that up as just a pattern that you followed suit and has been going on for a while. So we have to undo the pattern. Don't, just because you have a pattern that goes on, don't be confused and just assume and concede to that's just who you are. Because it's not. It's not at all. It's something you learned and that you picked up years ago. Here's the way I like to think about it. Imagine thinking a pair of shoes is part of your feet. I've given this analogy a few times here lately. Imagine that. Imagine the pair of shoes that you're wearing that you don't think they're just a pair of shoes. You're like, no, they're part of my feet. Sounds dumb, but you'd be terrified to take them off. You would be like, no, this is just what they are. You wouldn't just kick them off. It's like your ear. If I said, take your ear off, you'd go, well, no, because your ear is part of your head. So you don't just take it off. But imagine if you thought like your shoe, but like with your shoes, oh, it's just something you wear. So it's no big deal kicking them off. Well, when you think something is what you are or who you are, like binge eating, you don't want to let it go. If I said, take off your ear right now, you're going to be like, no. It's part of me. I'm not going to take my ear off. That's going to hurt. And if I start tugging on it, you're like, stop it. That hurts. It's dangerous. I don't want you to rip my ear off. It's part of my head. Exactly. But a lot of you guys are doing the same thing with your patterns. No, I'm a binger. Don't take it off. That hurts. I've always been this way. You see where I'm going with this? Here's the crazy part. A lot of people don't realize that the patterns that we struggle with, they've run their course and it's time for them to die. There's internal resistance, and I'll get into that here in a minute. There's internal resistance with these patterns is because they did serve you in a weird way. When you learned to binge when you were 6, it helped you cope with your parents' divorce or whatever the thing is. If let's say you became a procrastinator, like there's probably some deep rooted thing behind that where it kind of served you, where this way you could sleep in whenever something was going on at home or whatever the case may be. That may be a poor example, but you get what I'm saying. All patterns used to serve you. Otherwise you wouldn't have found it. In a weird, twisted way, when it happened, when it started, your pattern served you. Otherwise you wouldn't have picked it up. So it just may not serve you now. Case in point. Think about it this way. Have you ever purchased a pair of shoes, brand new, you worn them, and then you wore them out and you threw them away? Yes, we all have. Why though? If you were going to throw your pair of shoes away and I go, whoa, what are you doing? You bought those brand new. And you go, yeah, Jared, a year ago, and now they're worn out. And I go, no, but you bought them new. Why are you wasting them and throwing them away? You would probably say, well, Jared, I blew holes in them. They worn out. There's no arch support, and they actually hurt my feet and my back now. Or in other words, they ran their course. You don't need them anymore. In actually wearing a pair of shoes that are fully broken down and that don't serve their purpose anymore actually would cause more wear and tear on your body, like your back and your feet and your knees. So you don't think twice about, I'm going to throw these away and get a new pair. That's what you should do with your patterns. Because the pair of shoes, you bought them before. They ran their course, they served you, but now they are worn out. They don't serve you anymore and they're causing problems, so you pitch them. And you go buy a new pair of shoes without even thinking about it. But imagine being terrified to throw away the old pair of shoes that are begging to be thrown away, that hurt you. And you're like, no, but I bought these a year ago. I can't let them go. I bought these 5 years ago. Let's say you literally wore through the soles of the shoes and you're literally almost barefoot on the ground. No, Jared, I can't let these go because I literally bought them brand new like 5 years ago. Yeah, but they're hurting your feet. You can go buy a new pair of shoes. This is how it works with patterns. Because your pattern served you in a weird way before, it doesn't serve you now. It ran its course. You learned binge eating as a way to handle your emotions when you didn't know how to handle them, but now it's 20 years later and it's time to let go of that pattern and find a new pattern that does serve you, like journaling, meditation, or emotional regulation. Same thing, like let's say you any other pattern. Let's say you started sabotaging your weight loss. Let's say you started getting attention you didn't like, so you started to sabotage your weight loss when you were younger. That's a common one I see a lot. Well, you're not 15 anymore. Let's say you're 45. Well, that pattern, in a weird way, served you when you were 15. It doesn't serve you anymore. So let's throw that pattern away and let's put a new pattern in its place. This is what I'm talking about. But if you are convinced your patterns are who you are, like your ear is part of your head, you'll never let them go. You have to understand your subconscious mind guards your patterns. Because your brain, please realize this, your brain doesn't give two shits if you're happy. Your brain only cares about self-preservation. And if this pattern that kept you safe when you were 6, if you get rid of it, you could get hurt now. So let's just stay in this. Let's keep this shitty pattern, even though it's hurtful, it's not helping you, but at least we know what to expect. That's how your brain thinks. I can't remember if I brought this up, on a different podcast episode, but I got thinking about patterns one day, and there's a kid's movie that I saw a few years ago that I think it describes this perfectly in the way like your brain and your patterns work. If you've ever watched the movie, I think it's a Disney movie called The Croods. It's an animated movie like cavemen and stuff like that called The Croods. If you haven't, look it up and it'll really help. But in the movie The Croods, you have the dad who is very protective of his family. You have Daddy Crude, who's just like, oh, I know I have to keep the family safe. It's all on me. I cannot let anyone get hurt. So because of that, he wants his family to stay in the cave, never go outside of their little area. And as soon as it gets dark, you have got to stay in the cave. Otherwise, we will all die. And that's how it works. But then the problem is he has a daughter who is super explorative. She's so curious, and she's explorative. I don't even know if that's a word. She loves to explore. She's so curious, and she wants to go see what's outside the cave, right? She gets out of the cave and looks around. She's like, oh, there's these big mountains. Oh, what's on the other side of those mountains? Oh, where's the sun even come from? Let's go over and see if we can chase the sun and find what's on the other side. Oh, what's that grass? I've never been over there. She's so curious. And the dad is, no, you're going to die. No, we're all going to die. And then during the movie, the dad, like the daughter tries to go out and explore and sneak away. And the dad finds her and yanks her back into the cave and scolds her like, what are you doing? We're going to get hurt. We're all going to die. And that's what your brain says. Here's you. You're like, I want to be happier. I want to love the way I look. I want to love the way I feel. I want to experience freedom. I want to be confident in my own skin. And your brain goes, we could get hurt. We could die. You've tried this diet thing before, fell on your fucking face, and it hurt. So why should we even try again? Oh, remember that one time you lost weight and then you got all this attention from these people that you didn't like? You shouldn't lose weight because that's going to happen again. Oh, remember that one time where this happened and you felt this? Yeah, we don't want to do that again. You shouldn't lose the weight. Remember that time you lost all this weight and then you gained it back and how horrible you felt? That's going to happen again. We should not do this. This is the way your brain works. This is why you find patterns when you're younger and years ago when stuff happens, and your brain doesn't want to let them go because it thinks it's all about survival, but it's not true. This is why you can't just listen always to your intuition around this, at least not in this stage right now. I'm not saying there's not good to your intuition, but most people who follow the lines of, oh, I just want to be mindful and listen to my intuition about this stuff. At this stage, I'm talking to you, your intuition is going to is the problem, actually. Your intuition is what's telling you to binge. Your intuition is telling you to emotionally eat. Your intuition is the why you quit. Like right now, your intuition's broke. It's like an autopilot. It's actually aimed in the wrong direction. People tell me all the time, they go, Jared, I just wish I could emotionally eat like everyone on Instagram tells me I should be able to. I go, here's the problem. You can, but emotional eating is a really high skill. You have to have a high level of emotional intelligence and pattern awareness. And we have to work through all this bullshit that's keeping you stuck, because right now, your intuition is why you quit. Your intuition is why you binge. Your intuition is why you feel once I start, I can't stop. Fuck it. I'm just going to eat everything in sight. So this is why, in order to get to where your intuition is something you can trust, we have to fix these deep patterns that are going on underneath the surface. Okay. And the third thing I have right here for stopping lifelong patterns is you have to realize this. Patterns are mostly subconscious, as in you don't even know they're happening. Like for example, I talk with my hands a lot. That's a subconscious action. Now, right now, I'm consciously aware I'm talking with my hands, but most of the patterns that you fall into are completely subconscious. It's why you know what to do consciously, but you can't bring yourself to do it. Or you always find yourself going back to where you started, or you always find yourself back in the same shoes as you were, is because you can know all day, but knowing is only 10, 20% of the battle. Doing is caught up in your subconscious. Is 80, 90% of the battle. So this is why people know more than I do. Literally, I have people who know so much more about psychology, know so much more about this stuff than I do, but then they turn around and hire me to help them because their knowing isn't getting them anywhere, because I'm all about let's get caught up in the doing. You can go have a PhD in this shit, but if you do not put things into place and change things from the subconscious level, it's never going to happen. Okay. Now, don't worry. I'm not going to leave you hanging. We're going to get into the how. So let's talk about how to stop these patterns. Okay. I have 5 steps if you're taking notes. Now, step number 1 is we have to recognize the patterns and be aware of them. I'm sorry, but you cannot escape a jail you don't know you're trapped in. I stole that from Dr. Joe Dispenza. You have to recognize it. What patterns are not serving you? Because I can tell you, if you do not become aware of the pattern, you will never get outside of it. That's how the pattern wins, is because you are inside of it. You are in the pattern. But as soon as you can go, oh, I'm doing it again, you're outside the pattern. Now you have power. But if you don't know you're doing it, how can you stop? So for example, something, this is not weight loss related at all. This is something my wife has helped me with. If you guys can't tell, I love to talk. I love to talk for a living. I love being in social circles. I love telling stories, and I love doing this. Well, in the middle of doing this, when I get really excited, my volume gets really high. I used to be really, really bad. I used to talk really, really, really fast, and I used to talk really, really, really loud. Well, so we would be out to dinner with friends or whatever, or in a social setting, and I would be talking at the table to everyone, and I wouldn't realize my volume, and my wife would just subtly put her hand on my lap. And that was our little telltale sign of, hey, your volume's getting a little high. Right? This was in context, like I wanted her to do this because I didn't know my volume would get high. She would just put her hand on my lap and like tap my leg, just a little reminder of like, oh, I'm doing it again. I did not know it. Right? This was something I loved that she would do, because I don't want to be that obnoxious guy at the dinner table talking so loud and da-da-da-da-da. So that was a pattern. I didn't know I was doing it. So how can I stop? I couldn't until I was made aware. Oh, I'm doing it again. So I would just slowly bring my tone back down, my volume down, and I would continue the conversation. Well, because I've done that happen so many times, I don't do that nearly as much. I don't have this pattern of I obnoxiously talk too loud anymore, because I would course correct so many times, because talking loud was just something I learned. Ironically, if we rewind it, I grew up in a small, as a kid, I grew up in a house that was small, and I had 3 other siblings. 2 of the other ones were boys just like me, and we are all loud. We would talk over each other. We would play. We would do all this stuff. So of course it made sense that at a really young age, I learned to talk really loud to get heard, because it was a loud house. Not in a bad way, but it was a small house, 3 rambunctious boys, and we just do. It was we're talking back in the 90s. So like we were playing outside, doing all this stuff. So again, these were all great things, but I learned that. So as an adult, I don't need to do that anymore, but it was just a conditioned response. So for me to stop that pattern, by the help of my wife saying, oh, like your volume's getting a little high, and she would just tap my leg, and I would bring it back down. I would course correct. This is what I'm talking about. You have to recognize the patterns, especially if you are doing this on your own. You have got to recognize your patterns. In a coaching standpoint, like when I'm working with someone in like a coaching setting, it's still important for them to be aware of their patterns, but it makes it easier for me to go, oh, nope, that's just a pattern. Oh, nope, that's a pattern. Oh, that's a pattern. Oh, nope, you're doing it again. This is where you sabotage. This is where you get busy about 3 months in. This is just the pattern, right? That's the nice thing about having a coach in your corner, is they can call that stuff out. But if you're on this journey on your own, you have to be that own coach. You have to be the one to go, oh, I'm doing it again. Now, here's the cool thing. Even in a coaching dynamic, I'm not with my clients 24/7. So the more I teach this, the more they go, oh, I'm starting to do that again. I almost ran to food because I was feeling stress, but I was doing it again. Or my favorite step is when they catch themselves in the middle of it. Like let's say you have a pattern of emotional eating, and you are balls deep in a bunch of chips, and you go, oh, I'm doing it again. I'm emotionally eating again. That's so magical. I don't care the fact that you're still in the middle of emotional eating. I'm more excited that you saw it and you go, oh, I'm doing it again. This way you can course correct and go, oh no, I'm not doing this. This isn't who I am anymore. This isn't the magic. You cannot escape it if you don't know it's there. This is now on the stages, I think, of learning, what they call it. Most people are, I think it's labeled unconscious incompetence. They don't know where they're incompetent at. They don't know what they don't know. They're completely oblivious. The next stage is conscious. I believe the next stage is conscious incompetence. It's going, hey, I know I'm missing something, but I don't know what it is. Hey, I didn't realize how far off I was. You're conscious of this incompetence, right? But now, then it keeps going down the chain of events. But I haven't studied that specific work in a minute, that specific terminology around that. But it's the same kind of thing. Is you're going from unaware that you keep fucking this up and you keep falling in these patterns, is now you are aware and going, oh, I'm doing it again. This is the magic, is when you can go, oh, I almost did it, or I'm doing it again. So this is why recognizing the patterns and being aware of them is stage one. You have to be able to recognize what you're doing, what always happens. Okay. Step number 2, you have to be prepared for when it comes back again. When I'm working with someone, I talk about this. I have a concept that I teach with in the collective and with clients that's called the stopping sabotage method, because it's this much more in-depth approach that I use when it comes to stopping this pattern of self-sabotage. But this is kind of what I talk about in it, whereas we have to be prepared when it comes back again, because your patterns will resurface. Don't play ignorant to the fact that just because you hopped on a new diet or work with a new coach or work with a new whatever, that your patterns are going to stop. Your patterns are literally going to just circle back around. Think about it. What have you done for years at a time? How long have you started over Monday? How long have you hid your emotions with food? How long have you binged on the weekends? How long have you said you're a perfectionist? How long have you said I'm an all or nothing person? What else to add to the list? How long have you validated your bad decisions? How long have you said, fuck it, and then proceeded to make a bad decision? So be prepared when it comes back again. It blows me away how many people have a pattern of, let's say, binge eating, then they hop on a new diet and they're shocked that binge eating comes back. Well, you never fixed the root cause of it. You never addressed the pattern. That's why people binge on keto, then they go to Weight Watchers, and they go to fasting, and then they go to all of it. Then even I'm the binge eating guy. Like, people come to me to stop binge eating, and they come to me and they binge eat, and I go, yeah, well, we have to get to the pattern. We have to get to all 4 reasons you binge eat. If you haven't seen that piece of content, I can't remember what episode it is. I've done a piece of content, a podcast on it, but you get what I'm saying is, when it comes to this, you have to be prepared when it comes back. Patterns are patterns because they resurface and they circle back. If it's a one and done, it's not a pattern. If it's a sequence that happens over and over and over again, it is a pattern now, and then we have to address it. So step number 1 is recognizing the pattern and being aware of it. Step number 2 is being prepared for when it comes back. So if your pattern is hide emotions with food, you better be prepared when stress comes back. That's right. Like right now, I'm having a lot of conversations with people around GLP-1 or Ozempic or Wegovy or whatever form it's in. And a lot of people are telling me, like, Jared, I'm on the drugs and it's going great. And awesome. And I'm like, hey, I love that for you. I go, so how long are you going to be on it? And they go, well, I just want to be on it just to get these 15, 20 pounds off. I go, cool. So what's your pattern, or what's your plan when that pattern comes back? And they go, what do you mean? I go, well, the drug doesn't keep the food noise away. It's just masking it, which is why we see an overwhelming amount of people who, as soon as they get off the drug, food noise comes back, cravings come back, emotional eating comes back. All the food noise comes back is because it's a pattern, and the shot just like suppresses it, because the shot doesn't get to the root cause of like the trauma around food or the patterns you learned when you were a kid, or the shot doesn't fix your relationship with food or how you think or your personality, these kind of things. So those are all pattern driven things. So all these people are getting off of the drug, and then all of a sudden they go, oh, why did my emotional eating come back? Because you never learned how to handle your emotions separately from food. Well, why did my food noise come back? Because you never stopped restricting. Well, why did my binge eating on the weekends come back? Because you never followed a sustainable plan and you still have a poor relationship with food. Well, it's because these all circle back around. So until you get to the root cause, it will never go away forever. So that's why number 2 is be prepared for when it comes back again with your plan. Now, if you need help, by the way, with the plan, I teach this much more in depth inside my collective program. It's not one-on-one coaching, but if you're at stage 2 and you're like, okay, I'm aware of my patterns, but I don't know what kind of plan I should have in place, I teach on this much deeper inside that program in the collective. I'll leave a link below if you want to check that out. Okay, number 3, here's where the rewriting happens mentally. This is the hardest part. Adjusting and nudging yourself back on track when you get off. That's it. Literally, whenever you fall into a pattern and you start to go back into the pattern going, oh, I'm doing it again, back on track. Don't overcorrect like we all hear in driving. Like you don't overcorrect. You know, if like you're driving in the snow and your car starts to drift and you hit the rumble strips on the road and you hard left and then you actually overcorrect and you're going to crash. We don't want to overcorrect either. Okay. Actually, I heard the best analogy from my friend Matt Vincent. I did a podcast with him a few episodes back where he compared patterns of sabotage or adjusting from patterns is like steering an elephant. You just subtle taps like, no, we're getting back on track. Elephant starts to veer off. No, tap, 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 tap. And you're just adjusting the elephant back. You're not beating the elephant or like hard steering it. You're just tap, tap, tap. And then the elephant gets slightly back on the road again. It's the same thing with these because you have to understand that you're going to have to adjust. You have a pattern that's been living in you for decades. Hiding your emotions with food is a pattern. Starting for Monday is a pattern. Losing motivation 8 weeks in is a pattern. Wanting to quit is a pattern. Saying I'm an all or nothing person is a pattern. There's so many patterns. So you're going to fall into said pattern because that's what they do. The magic is when you go, that's not who I am anymore, and adjust to the right path. Adjust back to where things should be. That's the magic. Get really used to saying that's not who I am anymore. There's a lot of power in saying that's not me anymore. It used to be me. It's not me anymore. Think of it this way. My favorite analogy. Think about someone who wants to quit smoking. And then someone says, hey, Bob, you want a cigarette? And Bob goes, no, I'm trying to quit. Well, that means part of Bob is still a smoker. I'm trying to quit. That means I am smoking, but I want to stop. But imagine if someone says, hey, Bob, you want a cigarette? Let's say Bob literally smoked 10 minutes prior and he goes, that's my last one. And someone goes, Bob, you want a cigarette? And he goes, not a smoker anymore. It's not who I am anymore. That's a different level of internal work and identity going, this is who I'm not. You may not know who you are, but we need to get clear on at least who you're not. There's a concept that I teach inside the collective called the back door to identity work is the way that I've coined it, where a lot of people struggle with knowing who they are and saying, this is my identity. That can be a pretty big ask. So let's go process of elimination. Who are you not? It's like in school, you had a multiple choice answer. If you don't know what the answer is, well, just cross off what it isn't. Because you may not know who you are. You may not know this identity version that you have to become. It's a big ask. But you can go, I'm not someone who starts over Monday. I'm not someone who says fuck it anymore. I'm not someone who hides their emotions with food. I'm not someone who gives up when things get hard. And I'm not someone who validates their bad decisions anymore. I'm not someone who hides what they feel anymore and runs from the quietness in their head. Wow. You may not know who you are, but you just eliminated 5 or 6 bad habits because that's not who you are anymore. So this is how we do this. When you start to fall down the old pattern, go, I am doing it again. Awareness of step number 1, you're prepared, number 2, and now you're going back to where I should be. Now, if you're not sure where you should be, that's a different conversation. We need to dive into your goals. We need to dive into the version you have to become to get said goals, all of this, but you need to adjust back to we'll just call it the right decisions, back on track, if you will. Excuse me, but you have to understand it's a nudge back. No hard resets, no starting over, no day one all over again. It is, I'm starting to get off. Nope, little nudge. You find yourself down the pattern of, let's say you're in the middle of an emotional eating session. Oh, nope, this isn't who I am anymore. Put the bag of chips back. If you catch yourself breaking promises to yourself, I'm going to track my calories every day. Oh, it's fine. It's just one meal. Oh, I'm doing it again. This is where I fall off. Nope. And go back to tracking, right? Whatever the thing may be. So that's number 3. And here's the part no one likes. Number 4, do these over and over and over and over again. This is going to take a long time. You've had these patterns that's been living in you on autopilot, comfy, cozy for the last handful of years or even decades. Now you're kicking the renters out. Like these patterns have been living inside you rent free, taking advantage of you. And now you're going, all right, you guys are done, out. They're going to go, bitch, whose house do you think this is? This is my house. I've been here. I've literally controlled you for the last 30 years. You're just now going to get your shit together? Okay. Come back when you got more manpower. That's literally what your patterns are going to do. That's okay. You're stronger than them. You're stronger than this. This is what it takes. Patterns don't go down easy. Like, I know that sounds kind of goofy, but that's literally how the internal dialogue will go. You're going to go, okay, I'm ready to take control of my life. I'm not going to do this pattern anymore. Your patterns are going to look at you and mock you. They're going to go, bitch, you've done this forever. Who do you think you are? This is not, okay, you're going to kick us out and rewrite your life. That's what your patterns are going to do. And you need to hold strong and course correct and change. Because here's what happens. This works with any pattern. If you commit to doing this and you have the mental fortitude to screw up and adjust back, screw up and adjust back, screw up and adjust back, the times of screwing up will start to get further and further apart. Case in point, let's say, let's see if I can do this without dropping my laptop. Let's say I've always had a pattern of crossing my arms right over left. If you're watching the video, my not tattooed arm over my tattooed arm. If I have a pattern of crossing my arms right over left, and I go, you know what? I don't like this pattern. I want to start crossing left over right. I want to show off my tattoo. And let's say I want to cross my tattooed arm over. This feels awkward as fuck, by the way. If you've never done that, do it. Cross your arms how you normally do, and then cross them the other way. It feels hella awkward. So if I go, all right, my old pattern is right over left, I'm going to start crossing left over right. This is going to be awkward. I've had decades of crossing my arms right over left. We'll call it the right way for me. Well, if I go, okay, I'm going to start crossing left over right. I will start strong left over right, but then I will unconsciously, you'll do it too, uncross them back to normal because it's uncomfortable. And then for me, I would have to go, oh, I'm doing it again. And I would adjust to the new plan. Hold that for as long as I can. And then I would get on autopilot and I would start to uncross and go, oh, I'm doing it again. And I would just adjust back. This is what you're going to have to do. And then over time, these habits will get more ingrained. This is a neural pathway if you want to get really specific about it. So you're going to have to do this over and over and over again. Then you'll find yourself over time autopiloting to the new habit. And it takes a while. That's the part no one likes. So you have to understand this is what I have in my notes, the more and longer you course correct, the less you will fall off and drift back to your old patterns. This is the unsexy part of pattern changing. I always say everyone wants to change their patterns, but no one wants resistance. All right, let's talk about things to remember when changing patterns, because this is a big expectations conversation. Because again, like I said, everyone wants the thing until they're aware of what happens when you ask for the thing. What I mean by that is everyone says, oh, I want patience until, well, the only way to get patience is to feel copious amounts of impatience. Or everyone wants to be fearless until, to be fearless, you got to go through some scary shit. So here's all the scary shit. Everyone wants to be disciplined until that means like, oh, that means you got to do a whole lot of shit you do not want to do. Everyone wants accountability until you have someone that actually holds you accountable. Can't tell you how many people in my career have said, Jared, I want accountability. And then they get upset when I go, no, actually, this is what you said you wanted. So let's hold to that and be right. It's this kind of thing. So everyone wants mental and emotional work. Everyone wants to rewrite their brain, reset their patterns, fix their mindset. That all sounds cool until it comes down to actually do that. And it's hard. It sucks. It's uncomfortable. You sabotage a lot. You fuck up. It's really, really filled with resistance. So I think it's part of my job as someone who's teaching these things to make you abundantly clear of what to expect when you decide to change your headspace and inner game mindset and sabotaging patterns, I should say. So things to remember. Number one, it will not be easy. We're almost done here. Home stretch. Things to remember when changing your patterns is number one is it will not be easy. You have to understand old patterns die hard. They served you at some point in their life and they don't want to change. Your brain, you have to understand this. Your brain does not want you to change at all. I want you to stay exactly how you are because it's safe here. We're not happy, but we won't get hurt. Well, that's why they don't go down easy. They don't go down without a fight. Your ego doesn't like it. So number one to remember is it's not going to go down easy. This is why there's resistance. I have people ask me all the time, well, Jared, how do I fight through the resistance? You do it. That's part of it. Resistance is doing the thing you don't want to do. Well, how do I do it? You have free fucking will. There was Joe Dispenza. I keep referring back to him. He said, your will has to be stronger than the pattern. Like, for example, let's take something simple. Let's say meditation. No one likes it. The concept of sitting in silence is super uncomfortable. Cool. Can your will to sit still and sit in the moment be stronger than the pattern to get up? Oh, Jared, I got ADHD. I've got that kind of brain. I just can't do it. Okay. That's an old pattern. That's an old story. I'm not saying ADHD I'm not saying it isn't real or whatever, but I have ADHD real bad and I can sit down for an hour and meditate. It sucks a lot. It's hard. I literally start moving. I get so antsy, but also I know what I want and my will is stronger than the pattern. It's the same thing with so many areas in your life. How many times you brush your teeth and you're like, I don't want to do this for 2 minutes, but you do it anyway, right? So with a lot of this stuff, you have to understand the magic is in doing the thing that you don't want to do. It's the resistance. The resistance is your brain trying to win. So your will has to be stronger than the resistance. We can scale the plan back. I'm not saying do anything extreme, but at the end of the day, when it comes to the resistance you're feeling with rewriting patterns, it will never go away. No pattern changes effortlessly, because if it did, it probably wasn't a pattern. Number 2, it's going to take longer than you think. Yeah, some patterns change fast. You may have someone, a friend or a colleague, or you might hear something of someone that changed theirs faster, but just assume your patterns are going to take a while and be okay with it. Just assume they have been here for a long time. That also changes things. Let's say you've had a pattern for 40 years, but your friend had theirs for 4 years. Yours is going to take longer because it's been here longer. So this is why we can't play the comparison game, but understand that your pattern is not going to go down without a fight. It will not relent easily, and it's going to take longer doing this work than you're probably ready for or comfortable with, and that's okay. Number 3, it's going to be messy. I have people all the time. This is why I try to be really big about expectations on the work, on the inner work specifically. They say all the time, they're like, Jared, well, I was doing so good with my relationship. Let's say their pattern is binge eating. Well, I did so good. I was binging all the time. I started doing your frameworks, and then I started to do better, but then I started binging a little bit. And then I went back to doing good, and I binged once or twice, and I went back to doing good. And they're like, what am I doing wrong? I go, nothing. This is the messiness. So much of the magic with inner work and doing this internal stuff is not a light switch. It's not struggle on, struggle off. It's so messy. You'll be struggling, then you'll make some changes, things will get better. Your pattern will fight back harder. Then you'll struggle a little bit, but not quite as bad as you did the first time. And then you'll get better, and then you'll get really good. And then all of a sudden, like a flare up will happen. But then you won't be off as long as you normally were, and then you're going to be back down. And then that's how it goes. And then before you know it, you'll go, oh, I don't remember the last time I did that. One of the cool things with clients and collective members that I talk to is it gets to the point with these things that they forget they struggled with it. It's like, you know what? I can't remember the last time I binged, because they're not planning on going back to it, right? We're working through this, and then they forget, oh yeah, I guess I used to struggle with food. Oh yeah, I guess I would have felt guilty here. Oh, you know what? I can't remember the last time I binge ate. That's the kind of what'll happen towards the end of this. Okay. Next, number 4, you will drift. It kind of goes back to being messy. You're going to drift. Don't let that old pattern of all or nothing come in. Well, I was doing so good, and I ate and I binge ate once, and like, fuck it, I'm back to where I started. No, you're not. That's your all or nothing ego coming back into place. Don't let that shit back in here. All the time people go, oh, Jared, I'm back at square one. The scale spiked. I'm literally back to where day one. No, you're not. Are you kidding me? Well, I binged. Yeah, you've binged one. You went from binging 3 or 4 times a week, and now you binge once every 8 weeks. You are not back to square one just because you binged again. Realize drifting will happen. The resistance is sneaky. Your ego is sneaky. Everyone thinks sabotage is this giant, hey, here's your sign coming at you. It's not. It is so sneaky, and it tries to creep on the back end of stuff. I was chatting with someone the other day, and they said they sat down to meditate, and it was really uncomfortable. So they go, you know what? I should go read a book instead. That's really productive. And I go, that was your ego, that one. And they're like, what? And I go, the goal of them was to meditate and sit in silence. And because it was uncomfortable, you found a productive reason to come out of it, right? Because it was uncomfortable. Instead of sitting in the uncomfortable with all the uncomfortable emotions that came up, the ego didn't just say get up because you're too aware for that. The ego went, well, maybe you should read a book instead. And that person went, you know what? Yeah, that would be more productive. And they went and read a book. The ego, that was a drifting moment, is because the sabotaging part of your brain, or we'll call it the ego in this person's case, didn't want them sitting in silence, because the old pattern is to do something else and not be still. Well, but they had to do it with something productive, right? So the ego is really clever with doing stuff like that. So you will drift during this process. So that's why you got to stay aware. Number 5, your brain will freak out before it relents. So much of this pattern work is your brain is going to freak out. It will get worse before it gets better. Just assume that. When you start doing this internal work, your brain is going to throw the kitchen sink at you. You will have a pattern of catastrophizing coming in. You will have all these thoughts that you hadn't thought about in a while, and you will have all these different things come up for you, and it will get sucky. It's because your ego or your patterns never had to fight this hard. Your patterns were never this close to death as they are right now. So that's why it's going to get loud upstairs. Your ego will freak out first. Because as you are starting to do well, these parts of you that are on their way to die almost know they're going to die. So they're fighting back. It's kind of like in sports, they call it like the Hail Mary. It's like if it's a basketball game and I'm half court, there's 2 seconds left on the buzzer. I literally have nothing to lose by making a half court shot because who knows, it might make it. It's the same thing with your patterns. They are throwing the kitchen sink at you and trying to get you to fall off because they are dying. You are so far removed from this. I don't like to make drug addiction analogies with food because I don't agree with it. But one of the things that can be similar is emotional or pattern addiction. Here's what I mean by this as a correlation. If someone is getting sober from drugs, if let's say a person gets high every day at noon, and then when they are the most sober, while they're still in their recovery stage, the more days they get clean, the stronger the addiction is to go back, right? If someone gets high at noon every day and it's 1 p.m., it's all that internal part of them is like, hey, it's time to get our fix again. But if it's noon the next day, it's stronger. If it's noon the next day, it's stronger. If it's a week past, they're like, it's so bad. Welcome to your pattern addiction. When you don't give in, your pattern goes, oh shit, we have to fight harder. Oh, they're still not giving in? Fuck. Okay, we got to throw everything at them. Oh shit, they may actually beat us this time. Let's get out all the all the rockets, all the missiles, all the stuff to get them. That's how it works internally. So don't take the resistance as a sign or the messiness as a sign of something's wrong. It's a sign that you are going in the right direction because your ego and these sabotaging patterns of yours actually have to fight you now. There's an analogy, and I'll leave you with this. I have one more actually, but then I'll leave you with this. For me, there's something that happened in jiu-jitsu a while back that it was the epitome of how patterns work. It was huge for me. So this was back when I was white belt. At the time of recording this, I am a purple belt. So at the time back then I was a white belt. I was rolling with my coach. And a lot of times what happens is when an upper rank is rolling with a newbie, or someone that's a white belt or much newer, that's not a threat, they just let them work. As a purple belt, I do this now. When I'm rolling with a newer guy that I'm not threatened by, I'm not going to just like dominate them and beat the shit out of them. I'll let them work and let them get better. Like I'm not getting as much out of that role is because I'm way more advanced than they are, but I'm going to let them work, right? I'm not like attacking them aggressively like I would attack another purple belt, but I'm letting them work. Okay, that's a normal thing upper ranks do to lower ranks. Well, so I was the lower rank working with my coach. I think he was a brown belt at the time. I was rolling with him, and my coach was not very, was just like letting me play, letting me like work stuff. He was not threatened by me. Well, out of nowhere in this role, my coach beat the living shit out of me. I'm talking about went from 0 to 100, flipped me over, tapped me, beat the living shit out of me. And after it was over, I went, where did that come from? I'm like, I've never experienced that. Where did that come from? And he goes, oh, you almost got me. And I go, whoa, I almost got you? He goes, yeah, I actually have to think about our roles differently now because you're starting to become a threat. So I actually had to fight you now. And I went, huh. So in that moment, two meanings I could have pulled. The first one, I could have been a little victim and went, jiu-jitsu's not for me. As soon as I start to get good, coach just turns it up and beats the shit out of me even more. I might as well quit and fall off. But I didn't. I went, wait, coach has never had to fight back. Coach went from, I just let Jared do whatever he wants because he's not a threat to, I actually have to fight Jared now because he's a threat and he almost got me. And in that moment, I went, wait, I've never almost got coach before. I got excited because I go, I'm a threat to him now because I'm getting stronger and I'm getting better and I'm growing. And now I know when coach starts to get crazy aggressive, I'm close. And I took that. And my roles were never the same. That meaning I took never changed. That's what's happening with you right now. What's happening with you right now is you're changing these patterns. You're thinking differently. Your patterns are actually having to fight you now. And that's where you're getting off and you're having a wrong meaning. You're going, oh my gosh, this is so hard. I should just quit. And the pattern is going, yes, just quit. Hey, we've almost got him. Like that's literally what's happening. But whenever you are changing these things and sabotage is fighting you hard and resistance is at an all-time high and all these things are happening, you have to remember and go, oh, they've never had to fight this hard. I'm close to winning. That's the meaning I want you to establish, okay? That's what I mean when I said your brain will freak out before it relents. And then finally, to put a bow on this thing, there will be resistance. You have to understand that when you are changing your patterns and making the right decisions, there will be copious amounts of resistance. And it's just how the game works. No one changed their life on an accident. No one undid years of trauma, years of bullshit, fixed their entire old conditioning, became emotionally regulated, fixed their relationship with food, became free around food, and got mastery over themselves and healed through things and became 10 times more self-aware. No one did that on an accident. No one did that without going through some shit. No one did that without going through resistance and hell. But here's the thing, you can do it. It's not easy, but you can absolutely do it. I know at times it may feel like it's going to kill you, but it's not. This is how you level up and change your life. Because we're either, just like my whole tattoo is about, you're either growing or dying. And if you are not growing, growth is hard, growth sucks. And especially when you're changing deep things. I'm not talking about just eat less, move more. I'm talking about when you're changing your own patterns, your belief systems, your identity, in the things that used to keep you safe back when you were little and defenseless, and you're changing that now because none of it serves you. Bravo. That is the heroic fucking work. That is the shit 99% of people will not do. There are very few people who will actually do that uncomfortable work, but those are the people who go forth and change their family, change their entire kids' lives, change the next generations because this bullshit stopped at you, change everything that you touch because you are new now. You are different. Your beliefs are on a different planet now. Who you are is different because if you don't change your personality, you will never change your personal reality. It never works like that. Or I'm sorry, that's what you have to have happen. Okay. So I hope this was helpful. I'm actually surprised we went this long for a solo episode, but that is exactly how to stop your lifelong patterns and rewire your brain. As always, I appreciate you coming to the show. It means so much to me. I never take that for granted that there's a lot of places on the internet you could be, and it means more to me than you know that you're spending time listening to me talking to a microphone. So, a few things before you leave. Number one is I have a whole bunch of free stuff for you in the description. If you have not gotten my fat loss checklist mini course, that's down there showing you how to make fat loss simple as hell and basically undoing all the old beliefs that you probably have around fat loss is in that. If you want something a little smaller, a little more PDF-esque, I have my 20-pound blueprint in there as well, where if you just want a quick little blueprint on how to lose your next 20 pounds without giving up your favorite foods, that's down there as well. Now, if you need a little bit more support, if you're like, yeah, that stuff's great, but I need help with this stuff. This deeper stuff is I know where I need to be. I feel like, Jared, you're talking just to my soul. I need help. There's a couple ways you can get help from us. Number one is you can always go join my collective. It's my coaching group. So it's not one-on-one coaching. So it's more affordable and it's you can ease into things a little bit easier. It's a great and amazing spot that is helping so many other people in your same shoes right now. So there's all the info for that below. But if you're the kind of person that wants more one-on-one attention, if you're like, hey, I want to be someone's only focus and I want just a little bit more attention and accountability, you can always apply for one-on-one coaching. We'll see if there's spots available, just because things are different depending on the time we're recording this. And all that info is below. And as always, never hesitate to reach out if you need anything. Be sure and subscribe to the show if you have not already. I love you, and I will talk to you next time.